Get your stupid dog away from me! 10-year-old Emma Lancaster's shriek echoed through the shopping mall as she recoiled from a golden retriever wearing a bright service dog vest. The dog, a beautiful female named Bella, hadn't done anything except exist in the same walkway as Emma. The man holding Bella's leash was in his early 40s, wearing dark sunglasses and casual clothes. He gently guided the dog to the side. "Sorry about that. We'll give you space. You shouldn't even have dogs in the mall. It's disgusting and unsanitary." The man's expression remained neutral. "She's a service dog. She's legally allowed to be here." "I don't care. My mom is allergic and you're putting her in danger." Emma's mother, who was very clearly not having any allergic reaction, looked up from her phone with mild annoyance. "Emma, stop making a scene." But Emma was on a roll. She'd been having a terrible day. Her favorite store was sold out of the shoes she wanted, and taking it out on this man. And his dog felt satisfying in a twisted way. "Service dog for what? You look fine to me. You're probably just faking it to bring your pet everywhere." The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm not required to disclose my medical condition to you. Because you're lying. I bet that's not even a real service dog." What Emma didn't know was that the man she was harassing was Special Agent David Chen of the FBI. Bella wasn't just any service dog. She was specifically trained to detect PTSD episodes and anxiety attacks, which Agent Chen had been experiencing since a hostage situation gone wrong 2 years ago, had left him with severe trauma, and Emma was about to make the worst decision of her young life. "You know what? I'm going to prove you're a liar." Before anyone could react, Emma rushed forward and kicked Bella hard in the ribs. The dog yelped and stumbled, and Agent Chen immediately dropped to his knees beside her, checking her for injury. "Oh my God!" Mrs. Lancaster gasped, finally looking up from her phone. "Emma, what did you do?" "I was just proving it's not a real service dog. Real service dogs don't react." Agent Chen's hands shook as he carefully examined Bella, his breathing becoming rapid. The dog, despite her pain, was already trying to do her job, pressing against Chen's leg, providing the deep pressure therapy she was trained for. A mall security guard rushed over. "Sir, is your dog okay?" "I saw what happened." Chen nodded, but his voice was tight. "She'll be fine. But that child just assaulted a federal service animal." Emma rolled her eyes. "It's just a dog. It's a federally protected working animal," Agent Chen said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Assaulting a service dog is a federal offense, and you just did it in front of multiple witnesses and security cameras." The security guard's eyes widened. "Sir, are you law enforcement?" Agent Chen pulled out his FBI credentials with a shaking hand, his other hand still on Bella, who was whining softly. "Special Agent David Chen. This is my partner, Bella. She's a registered federal service dog, and this child just committed a federal crime." The blood drained from Mrs. Lancaster's face. "Wait, federal? No, she's just a child. She didn't understand." "She understood enough to deliberately kick a clearly marked service dog because she didn't believe I needed one. That's not ignorance. That's malice." A crowd had gathered, phones out, recording everything. Emma's earlier confidence evaporated as she realized the magnitude of what she'd done. I didn't mean to hurt her that bad." Agent Chen stood up, Bella leaning against his leg. His hands were still shaking, his breathing uneven. Bella was doing her job despite her own pain, trying to calm her handler through his rising panic attack. "You didn't mean to? You ran at her and kicked her deliberately. You wanted to hurt her to prove your point." The security guard radioed for backup and mall management. "Sir, what do you need from us?" "Security footage of the incident, contact information for all witnesses, and call the local police. I'm pressing charges." "You can't do that," Mrs. Lancaster protested. "She's 10 years old." "Then maybe at 10 years old she needs to learn that actions have consequences, especially actions that harm a working service animal and endanger a federal agent's ability to function." As if to prove his point, Agent Chen swayed slightly. His PTSD symptoms escalated, despite Bella's efforts. The incident had triggered memories of the hostage situation, and without Bella functioning at full capacity, he was struggling. A mall paramedic arrived and immediately recognized what was happening. "Sir, you need to sit down. Is this a panic attack?" Chen nodded, allowing himself to be guided to a bench. Bella, despite her injury, climbed up next to him, pressing her full weight against him, providing the deep pressure therapy that helped ground him. Emma watched, horror dawning on her face. Is he sick?" The paramedic nodded. "His service dog is trained to help him with a medical condition, and you hurt the one thing that helps him stay stable." Mrs. Lancaster was crying now. Emma, do you see what you've done? 2 police officers arrived, along with the mall manager. Agent Chen had recovered enough to provide a statement, though his voice was still unsteady. I want to press full charges. Assault on a federal service animal. Interference with a federal officer's duties, and I want her banned from this mall. One of the officers, a woman in her 30s, looked at Emma with disappointment. Young lady, do you understand how serious this is? Service dogs are protected under federal law. What you did isn't just mean. It's a crime. Emma started crying. I'm sorry, I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Agent Chen said coldly. You saw the vest. You saw the patches that clearly identify her as a service dog. You just didn't care. Because you thought you knew better. The mall manager approached cautiously. Agent Chen, we have the security footage. It's very clear what happened. How can we make this right? You can't. But you can ensure that your mall has proper signage about service animal laws, and that your security staff is trained to intervene when they see service animals being harassed. Over the next hour, statements were taken, footage was reviewed, and Emma sat in the mall security office, facing the reality of what she'd done. Her mother had called her father, who arrived furious and humiliated. Emma, how could you? How could you hurt an animal and harass a federal agent? I didn't know he was FBI. You shouldn't need to know. You don't hurt animals, period. Agent Chen returned to the security office with Bella, who had been examined by a veterinarian. Minor bruising, but she'll be okay. She's tougher than she looks. Mr. Lancaster stood immediately. Agent Chen, I cannot apologize enough. We will pay any veterinary bills, any costs associated with this. Please, is there any way we can make this right? Agent Chen looked at Emma, who couldn't meet his eyes. I've been thinking about that. I could push for full prosecution, a federal crime on her record. Even as a juvenile, it would follow her. Emma's parents looked terrified. Or, Chen continued, she could learn from this. Really learn. Anything, Mrs. Lancaster said desperately. She'll do anything. Agent Chen pulled out a business card. This is for a program I volunteer with. We train service dogs and educate the public about service animal laws. Your daughter will volunteer there for 6 months. She'll learn how these dogs are trained, what they do, why they're so important. She'll understand that they're not pets, they're medical equipment, they're lifelines. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Lancaster agreed immediately. Emma, you'll do this. Every weekend. Emma nodded, still crying. I'll do it. I promise. And, Chen added, you'll write a public apology that acknowledges what you did and why it was wrong. Not because you got caught, because you understand now that it was wrong. Over the next 6 months, Emma showed up every Saturday at the service dog training facility. She met people with PTSD, veterans, people with seizure disorders, people with diabetes whose dogs could detect dangerous blood sugar changes. She learned that service dogs saved lives every single day. She also spent time with Agent Chen and Bella, learning Bella's specific tasks and why they were so crucial. Chen told her about the hostage situation, about the 3 people who died, about his own struggle to continue functioning afterward. Bella doesn't just help me cope, he explained one day. She allows me to continue serving. Without her, I'd have had to take disability retirement. With her, I can still do the job I love and protect people. Emma's understanding deepened with each visit. She saw firsthand what these dogs meant to their handlers. She helped train puppies, learning the months of work that went into creating a service dog. She met handlers who'd been harassed like Chen had, people who'd been denied access to stores, kicked out of restaurants, told their dogs weren't real service animals. It happens all the time, one woman told Emma. People think they have the right to question my disability, to test my dog, to demand proof, and some people, like you did, get aggressive about it. Emma's apology, when she finally posted it, was genuine and detailed. She explained what she'd done, why it was wrong, and what she'd learned. She included information about service dog laws and urged others to educate themselves. The response was overwhelming. Some people praised her for taking responsibility. Others were less forgiving, pointing out that she'd only learned because she'd faced consequences. But Emma accepted all of it. She'd earned the criticism. On her last day at the training facility, Agent Chen and Bella were there to see her off. Bella was fully recovered, back to her energetic, working self. I want you to know, Emma said quietly, that I think about what I did every day, and I'm so sorry. Not just because I got in trouble, because I hurt Bella and made things harder for you. Chen nodded. I believe you, and I'm proud of the work you've put in here. You've helped train 2 puppies who are going to change people's lives. Can I ask you something? Why did you give me a second chance? You could have pressed charges and probably should have. Because I believe people can grow. You're 10 years old. You made a terrible choice, but you don't have to be defined by that choice forever. The question is, what you do with the lesson. Emma looked at Bella, who wagged her tail happily. I'm going to keep volunteering here. And I'm going to make sure other kids understand about service dogs. Maybe if I can teach even one person, it'll help make up for what I did. That's a good goal. Just remember, you can't completely make up for it. You can only be better going forward. 2 years later, Emma was still volunteering at the service dog facility. She'd started a program at her school to educate kids about service animals and disability rights. She'd become a passionate advocate, speaking at local events about her experience and what she'd learned. And every time she spoke, she started with the same story, about the day she kicked a service dog and learned the hardest lesson of her life. Agent Chen attended one of her presentations, sitting in the back with Bella. As Emma spoke about compassion and understanding, about seeing past visible disabilities to invisible ones, about respecting service animals and their handlers, he felt a sense of satisfaction. Justice wasn't always about punishment. Sometimes it was about transformation, and watching Emma transform from an entitled child who'd hurt his partner into a young advocate who educated others about disability rights felt like the best possible outcome. After the presentation, a young boy approached Emma with his mother. I have a service dog too, he said shyly, for my diabetes, and people say mean things sometimes. Emma knelt down to his level. I know, and I'm sorry, but there are people fighting to make it better, and I promise to be one of them. The boy smiled. Thank you. As they walked away, Emma caught Agent Chen's eye. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement. She'd learned the lesson. She'd changed, and in the end, that's all he'd really wanted.